Maya Tor stepped off the bus with a backpack that looked like it had been through hell. The fabric was torn in places and sewn back together with rough stitches. Her jeans were faded and patched. Her boots were scuffed beyond repair. She stood in front of university and stared at the tall brick buildings with wide eyes. Everything here was so clean, so perfect, so safe. Other students walked past her carrying expensive suitcases and talking on their phones. Their parents helped them move boxes into the dorms. They laughed and took pictures. Maya had no one with her. She had arrived alone, just like she had planned. The admissions office had given her a folder with her room assignment and a map of campus. Her hands shook slightly as she looked at the papers, not from fear, from something else, something she had learned to control but never fully stop. She found her dorm building after walking for 10 minutes. The elevator made a soft ding sound when it arrived. Maya jumped back, her body tense and ready. A girl with hair gave her a strange look. "You okay?" the girl asked. Maya forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired from the trip." Her room was on the 4th floor, room 412. She knocked before using her key, a habit from back home. No one answered. Good. She could settle in before meeting her roommate. The room was small but comfortable. 2 beds, 2 desks, 2 closets. Maya had never had this much space to herself. Back home, she had shared a single room with her younger brother and sister. They had taken turns keeping watch at night. She dropped her backpack on the bed near the window. Then she stopped. The bed was too soft, too high off the ground. She pressed down on the mattress and felt her stomach turn. She would never be able to sleep here, too exposed, too vulnerable. Maya pulled the thin mattress off the bed frame and dragged it to the corner of the room. She positioned it against the wall where she could see both the door and the window. Better, much better. She was unpacking her few belongings when the door burst open. A girl with dark hair and a bright smile rushed in, followed by 2 adults carrying boxes. "Oh my God, hi, you must be Maya, I'm Jessica. This is so exciting." The girl talked fast and loud. She moved around the room like a small tornado. Maya stood still and watched. Jessica's parents smiled at her and said hello. They asked questions. Where was she from? Did she need help with anything? Did her parents need directions? "I'm from down south," Maya said quietly. "A small town, and I came alone." Jessica's mother looked concerned. "All by yourself? That's such a long trip for a young woman alone." Maya almost laughed. If only they knew. She had traveled alone through places that would give them nightmares. A bus ride was nothing. "I'm used to it," she said simply. The family continued unpacking Jessica's things. Maya counted 7 suitcases, 3 boxes, and 2 bags. Jessica had brought a laptop, a TV, a mini fridge, plants, posters, and mountains of clothes. Maya's entire life fit in one backpack. Jessica talked the entire time. She was from Connecticut. She was studying communications. She loved to party but also loved to study. She had a boyfriend back home but was excited to meet new people. She asked Maya dozens of questions. Maya answered with short responses. Yes, no, maybe. She wasn't trying to be rude. She just wasn't used to this much talking. Back home, people spoke when necessary. Extra noise attracted attention, and attention meant danger. That night, Jessica wanted to go to dinner at the dining hall. Maya agreed, even though the idea of eating in a room full of hundreds of people made her skin crawl. She followed Jessica across campus as the sun set. The dining hall was massive and loud. Students everywhere laughing and shouting and eating. The smell of food made Maya's stomach growl. Real food, cooked food, not the dried meat and foraged plants she had grown up eating. She filled her plate carefully, taking small amounts of everything. She didn't trust food she hadn't prepared herself. Jessica piled her plate high and kept talking. They sat at a long table with other freshman girls. Everyone introduced themselves. They talked about their majors, their dreams. When it was Maya's turn, she said as little as possible. "What's your major?" one girl asked. "Biology," Maya said. It was the closest thing to what she knew. She understood anatomy because she had sewn up wounds. She knew plants because knowing which ones were poisonous had kept her alive. She understood predators because she had fought them. "What do you want to do with that?" another girl asked. Maya paused. She had never thought that far ahead. Back home, you didn't plan for the future. You survived the present. "I'm not sure yet," she finally said. The conversation moved on without her. Maya ate slowly and watched everyone. She noticed exits. She counted people. She listened to sounds outside the building. Old habits died hard. Back in their room, Jessica changed into pajamas and climbed into bed. She set an alarm on her phone and plugged it in to charge. "You can turn off the light whenever you want," Jessica said. "I can sleep through anything." Maya waited until Jessica's breathing became slow and steady. Then she pulled the mattress closer to the wall and lay down fully clothed. She kept her boots on. She positioned herself so she could see the door. Sleep didn't come easy. Every sound made her alert. The building settling, footsteps in the hallway, a door closing somewhere, wind against the window. Back home, any of those sounds could mean death. But nothing came through the door. Nothing tried to break through the window. Hours passed and Maya remained safe. Maybe this place really was different. Maybe she could actually be safe here. She finally fell asleep just before dawn, one hand tucked under her makeshift pillow, where she kept the only weapon she had brought with her. A knife her father had made from materials that didn't exist in normal places. She had promised herself she wouldn't need it here. She hoped that was true. Classes started the next day. Maya had signed up for basic courses: English, math, biology, history, things every freshman took. She wanted to blend in. She needed to blend in. Her English professor was a small woman with glasses who talked about the importance of storytelling. Maya listened carefully. She had stories. Stories that would make this woman run screaming, but she would never tell them. Math was easy. Numbers made sense. They followed rules that never changed. Unlike the world Maya came from, where rules bent and broke constantly. Biology was taught by Dr. Harrison, an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. He talked about human anatomy on the first day. He showed slides of the skeletal system and explained how bones connected. Maya stared at the screen. The diagram was wrong. The wasn't quite right. The skull proportions were slightly off. She had seen enough skeletons to know. Her hand raised before she could stop it. "Yes," Dr. Harrison called on her. "That diagram," Maya said slowly. "The 8th and 9th ribs, the angle is wrong, and the temporal bone should extend further back." The classroom went quiet. Dr. Harrison looked at the slide, then at his notes, then at Maya. "That's very observant," he said carefully. "What makes you say that?" Maya realized her mistake. Normal students didn't know this. Normal students hadn't seen bodies broken and studied them to understand how to avoid the same fate. I read a lot," she said weakly. Dr. Harrison nodded slowly, but his eyes stayed on her for the rest of class. Maya kept her head down and didn't raise her hand again. After class, she walked back to her dorm alone. Students passed her in groups, laughing and talking. They looked so young, so innocent, so unprepared for the real world. But this was the real world for them, and Maya needed to remember that. She needed to fit in. She needed to be normal. Even if normal felt like wearing a costume that didn't quite fit. Even if every instinct she had screamed that she didn't belong here. She would make it work. She had survived worse. She could survive college. She had 3 weeks passed and Maya thought she was doing well. She went to classes. She studied in the library. She smiled when people talked to her. She was becoming invisible in the best way possible. Jessica had stopped asking why Maya slept on the floor. She had stopped wondering why Maya never used the microwave after that first time when the beeping sound had made her roommate dive behind the desk. Jessica just accepted that Maya was different. Weird, maybe, but harmless. Then came the campus safety seminar. All freshmen had to attend. The university wanted students to know about campus security, emergency procedures, and self-defense basics. Maya sat in the back of the auditorium with Jessica and watched as a security officer demonstrated various safety tools. He showed them the campus emergency phones. He explained the blue light system that would call for help. He talked about walking in groups at night, all things that seemed so simple and naive to Maya. Then he pulled out a canister of pepper spray. "This is one of the best self-defense tools you can carry," the officer said. He was a large man with a friendly face. "Let me show you how to hold it properly." He demonstrated the grip, his thumb on the trigger. He pointed it away from the crowd. "If someone attacks you, you aim for the face and spray. The attacker will be temporarily blinded and you can run away to safety." He made it sound so easy, so clean. Maya knew better. She knew that real attacks didn't work like that. Real threats didn't stop because of pepper spray. "Now I need a volunteer," the officer said. "Someone to practice the proper stance." A few students raised their hands. The officer picked a girl from the front row. She came up on stage, giggling nervously. "Okay, I'm going to pretend to be an attacker," the officer said. "I'll come at you slowly. You hold the pepper spray like this and aim." He handed her the canister. Then he moved toward her with his hands raised like he was reaching for her. The girl fumbled with the spray. She held it wrong. She pointed it at the wrong angle. The officer stopped and corrected her position. Maya's hands gripped the armrest of her seat. This was all wrong. The girl would be dead in a real situation. The officer was teaching them to fail. "See, like this," the officer said, adjusting the girl's stance. Then he made a mistake. He moved suddenly, trying to demonstrate what a real attacker might do. He reached for the girl's wrist quickly. Maya's body moved before her brain could stop it. She was out of her seat and crossing the auditorium floor in 3 seconds. Her boots barely made a sound. She reached the stage and grabbed the officer's extended arm. She twisted it in a motion she had practiced 1,000 times. The officer's hand opened reflexively and the pepper spray fell. Maya caught it with her other hand before it hit the ground. The entire auditorium went silent. The officer stared at her with wide eyes. He was frozen in place, his arm still held in Maya's grip at an angle that caused pain but no damage. She had been trained to restrain, not to break, though she could do both. Maya suddenly realized what she had done. She released the officer's arm immediately and stepped back. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I'm so sorry, it was just reflex, I thought." "What the hell was that?" The officer rubbed his arm, looking at her with a mixture of shock and something else. Fear, maybe, or respect. The volunteer girl had stumbled backward. Other students were standing up, trying to see. Phone cameras were already out, recording. "I said I'm sorry." Maya's voice was quiet but firm. "You moved fast, I reacted, that's all." Jessica pushed through the crowd and grabbed Maya's arm. "Come on, let's go." They left through a side exit while everyone was still talking and filming. Maya's heart pounded in her chest. Stupid. So stupid. She had broken her own rule. Never show what you can do. Never let them see. "Maya, what was that?" Jessica asked as they walked quickly across campus. "How did you move so fast? And that thing you did with his arm?" "I grew up rough," Maya said. "It wasn't a lie, just not the whole truth. I learned to defend myself young." "That wasn't just self-defense, that was like, I don't know, military-level stuff. Where exactly are you from?" Maya stopped walking. She looked at Jessica, trying to decide how much to say. "A place where you learned those things or you didn't survive," she finally said. "Can we please just drop it?" Jessica stared at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, but people are going to talk. That video is probably already online. She was right. By dinner time, the video had spread across campus social media. Mystery student has insane reflexes was the caption. Comments filled with speculation. Was she military, a trained fighter? Someone suggested she was a spy. Maya ignored it all. She went to class the next day and kept her head down, but she could feel people staring, whispering, pointing. Dr. Harrison stopped her after biology class. "Miss Torres, that was quite a display yesterday," he said. "It was a mistake." "Was it?" He studied her face carefully. "I've been teaching for 30 years. I've had military veterans in my classes, police officers, athletes. None of them moved like you did." Maya said nothing. "Where did you say you were from again?" he asked. "I didn't," Maya said and walked out. But things kept happening, small things that Maya couldn't control. The flu swept through campus in October. Half the students in Maya's dorm got sick. Jessica was in bed for 3 days with a fever. Maya brought her soup and medicine and water, but Maya never got sick, not even a sniffle. "How are you not sick?" Jessica asked, her voice hoarse. "You're around me all the time." "Good immune system," Maya said. It was more than that. Her body had fought off things that would kill normal people. A simple flu virus couldn't touch her. Then there was the coffee incident. Maya and Jessica were studying in their room when Jessica reached for her mug on the edge of her desk. Her hand knocked it instead. The mug fell toward the floor. Maya's hand shot out and caught it without looking up from her textbook. Jessica stared. "How did you do that?" "Do what?" "You weren't even looking. The mug fell behind you. How did you know?" Maya had heard it. The slight scrape of ceramic against wood, the change in air pressure as the mug fell, the direction of the sound. She had processed it all in a fraction of a second and reacted. But she couldn't explain that. "Lucky catch," she said. "That's not luck, that's impossible." Jessica started watching Maya more carefully after that. She noticed other things. The way Maya always positioned herself to see doorways, how she never sat with her back to windows, the fact that she could hear conversations from other floors in the building. One night, Jessica tested it. "What's the girl in 714 talking about?" she asked suddenly. "What?" "You heard me, 714, 7 floors up. What are they saying?" Maya hesitated. Then she listened. It took effort to filter out all the other sounds, but she found it. 2 girls talking about an upcoming exam. "History test," Maya said quietly. "They're worried about the essay portion." Jessica's face went pale. "That's not normal. You know that's not normal, right?" "I have good hearing." "No one has hearing that good. What are you, Maya, really?" Maya closed her textbook. She looked at her roommate and saw genuine concern, and maybe a little fear. "I'm someone who learned to survive in a place where you had to hear danger before it reached you," Maya said. "That's all I can tell you." "Where is this place?" "Somewhere you've never heard of, somewhere that doesn't exist on maps." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I can give you." Jessica was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Are you in danger? Is someone after you?" "No, I left that place behind. I came here to be normal." "You're not normal, Maya. I don't think you could be normal if you tried." Maya felt something break inside her chest. She had tried so hard, she had hidden so much, and still it wasn't enough. "I know," she whispered. The breaking point came on a cold November night. The campus security system sent out an alert. Possible armed individual in the student center. All students should shelter in place immediately. Lock your doors. Stay away from windows. The alert blared on every phone. Students screamed and panicked. Jessica jumped up from her desk and ran to lock their door. She pushed her desk against it for extra protection. Maya didn't move. She sat on her floor mattress and listened, really listened. past the screaming and crying in the building, past the sirens starting in the distance. She listened for gunshots, for running footsteps, for the sounds of real danger. There was nothing. "Maya, help me." Jessica was trying to move her bed now, adding it to the barricade. "Come on." Maya stood up slowly. She walked to the door and put her hand against it. "There's no one," she said calmly. The alert said. I know what it said, but there's no gunfire, no breaking glass, no screaming that sounds real. This is a false alarm. You can't know that. But Maya did know. She had lived through real attacks. She knew what they sounded like, felt like. This was panic without cause. She positioned herself in front of the door anyway. Not behind it, in front of it. Her body loose and ready, her eyes focused. If something did come through that door, it would have to go through her first. Jessica watched her roommate and finally understood. Maya wasn't afraid. She had never been afraid, not of the pepper spray demonstration, not of the flu, not of this. Maya was something else entirely. Something that had learned to be the most dangerous thing in the room. An hour later, campus security announced it was a false alarm. Someone had called in a fake threat. Students could return to normal activities. Jessica moved her furniture back. Maya returned to her mattress. Neither of them spoke. But something had changed between them. Jessica now knew the truth, even if she didn't understand it. Maya wasn't running from danger. She was danger, carefully controlled and hidden beneath old clothes and quiet manners. And whatever had made her that way must have been absolutely terrifying. Dr. Harrison asked Maya to stay after class on a Tuesday in late November. She had been expecting this. He had been watching her too closely for weeks now, asking questions that seemed casual but weren't, paying attention when she corrected textbooks or pointed out errors in diagrams. The other students filed out. Maya waited by the door, ready to leave quickly if needed. "Please sit," Dr. Harrison said, gesturing to a chair near his desk. Maya sat but kept her posture ready. She could be out of that chair in half a second if necessary. Dr. Harrison pulled up something on his computer. He turned the screen toward her. It showed a map. Most of it was normal, roads and towns and rivers. But there was a section that was just blank, white space where something should be. "Do you know what this is?" he asked. Maya's throat went dry. She knew exactly what it was. "The Appalachian Mountains," she said carefully. "Yes, but look closer, right here." He pointed to the blank space. "There are no roads marked, no towns, no geographical features, just nothing. According to official maps, this area doesn't exist." Maya said nothing. "But it does exist, doesn't it?" Dr. Harrison leaned forward. "I've been researching old government documents, reports, rumors and stories that people dismissed as conspiracy theories. They all point to the same place." He typed something and pulled up a scanned document. It was old, the paper yellowed and the text faded. But Maya could read the words at the top: Quarantine Zone ASHTON Hollow. Her hands gripped the chair arms. "How did you find that?" Her voice came out rough. "I've spent 40 years studying unusual biological phenomena. I've read things that most scientists ignore. And I've been watching you, Maya, the way you move, what you know, how you survive things that should affect you. You're not from any normal place." Maya stood up. "I should go." "Please don't." His voice was gentle, not threatening. "I'm not trying to expose you or hurt you. I just want to understand that place, Hollow. Is that where you're from?" Maya stared at him for a long moment. She had kept this secret for months. She had run from her past and tried to bury it. But sitting here, looking at this kind man who had somehow found the truth anyway, she felt something break inside her. She sat back down. "Yes," she whispered. Dr. Harrison nodded slowly. "Tell me about it." And Maya did. She told him things she had never said out loud, things she had tried to forget. She told him about a place where reality worked differently, where the laws of nature bent and broke, where things that shouldn't exist walked openly. I was born there, she said. My parents were born there, their parents too. We've been there for generations. About 2,000 people total living in a town that the rest of the world forgot. Why can't people leave? Dr. Harrison asked. They can, but most don't survive the journey out. The things that live in the forests around the town hunt anyone who tries to escape, and even if you make it out, the government watches the borders. They turn people back or make them disappear. But you made it out. I'm one of maybe 20 people who escaped in the last 100 years. I had help and luck, and I was trained for it my entire life. She told him about her childhood, how children in Hollow didn't play games. They learned to track, to fight, to identify which plants would heal and which would kill. By age 6, Maya had seen her first death, a neighbor boy who had wandered too far from the safe zone. We called them shadow stalkers, she said. They existed partly in our world and partly somewhere else. You couldn't see them clearly, just shadows that moved wrong. They hunted at night and killed quick. We learned to move in groups, to carry light, to never trust the darkness. Dr. Harrison listened without interrupting. His face showed shock and horror and fascination all at once. Maya told him about the other things too. Plants that could think, whether that seemed to have intentions. Animals that were too smart and too aggressive. A reality that felt thin, like it might tear open at any moment and let something worse through. We adapted, she said, generation after generation. Our bodies changed, our senses got sharper. We became stronger, faster, more durable. We had to, otherwise we died. That explains so much, Dr. Harrison said quietly. Your reflexes, your hearing, the way you knew that anatomy diagram was wrong. I've seen enough bodies to know what they're supposed to look like, Maya said flatly. We couldn't always get people out when they died. Sometimes we had to leave them, and then we'd find the remains later and study them, to understand, to learn how to survive better. She told him about her training, how every child in Hollow spent their days learning to survive. Combat training started at 5, weapon training at 7. Survival training never stopped. Her father had been the town's best tracker. He taught her to read signs that others missed. Her mother had been a healer who knew every plant in the region. She taught Maya which ones to use for wounds and sickness. I lost my brother when I was 12, Maya said. Her voice went quiet. He was 8. We were out gathering water from the stream. Something took him. I heard him scream and I ran, but I couldn't find him. We searched for 3 days, found his shoe and nothing else. Dr. Harrison's eyes were wet. I'm so sorry. My sister made it to 15. That was considered lucky. Most kids didn't make it that far. She got sick from something in the water that we thought was safe. We tried everything, but she died anyway. And you decided to leave. I decided I wanted to see if the world outside was real, if normal actually existed. My parents helped me forge documents. They gave me what little money they had saved. My father mapped out a route through the forest that avoided most of the dangerous areas, and one night I left. She described the journey. 3 days of walking through woods where every shadow could be death, sleeping in trees because the ground wasn't safe, eating nothing because stopping to hunt would make noise. She had been injured twice, once by something with claws and once by thorns that burned like acid, but she kept moving. I made it to the edge of the quarantine zone on the 4th day. There was a fence, but I knew where the gaps were, places the government hadn't repaired. I slipped through and kept walking. I stole rides when I could, walked when I couldn't. It took me 2 weeks to get far enough away that I felt safe. And then you came here. I wanted to be normal, to study like a regular person, to not worry about dying every day, but I can't turn off what I am, what that place made me. They sat in silence for a moment. Dr. Harrison looked at his computer screen, then back at Maya. The world needs to know about this, he said. No, Maya's voice was sharp. They can't know the government will come after me, and worse, they might go after my parents, the people still living there. But Maya, there are 2,000 people trapped in that place, suffering, dying. They deserve help. They don't want help. They want to be left alone. We're survivors, not victims. We've learned to live with what that place is. Bringing in the outside world would destroy everything. Or it could save lives. Think about it. Medical help, resources, a way out for people who want to leave. Maya shook her head. You don't understand. The moment the world knows about Hollow, everything changes. Scientists will come to study us like we're animals. The military will want to weaponize what we can do. The town will be invaded by people who don't respect what we've built. What have you built? A prison where children die. A home where people survive against impossible odds. We have dignity. We have purpose. We're not victims waiting to be saved. Dr. Harrison leaned back in his chair. I can't what you've told me. This is too important. You have to. Maya stood up again. Please, I trusted you with this. Don't make me regret it. I won't tell anyone without your permission, but I want you to think about it. Really think about it. Could staying silent be more harmful than speaking up? Maya left his office with her head spinning. She walked across campus without seeing anything. Students passed her, but she didn't notice. Her mind was back in Hollow, remembering. She thought about her parents still living there, her father still teaching children to track, her mother still healing the wounded. They had chosen to stay even when they could have left. They believed in their home. But Maya also thought about the children, the ones who would die before they turned 10, the families who lived in constant fear, the people who wanted to leave but couldn't. Did they deserve a chance at something better? She didn't know. That night, Jessica asked her what was wrong. Maya had been sitting on her mattress for 2 hours without moving. Dr. Harrison knows, Maya said. Knows what? Where I'm from, what I am. Jessica sat down next to her. What are you going to do? I don't know. He wants to tell people, to help, but I'm afraid of what will happen if the truth comes out. Maybe he's right, Jessica said quietly. I've been thinking about what you told me, about that place. If people knew, maybe they could help. Maybe no more kids would have to die. Or maybe everything would get worse. You won't know unless you try. Maya looked at her roommate. Jessica had been scared of her after the lockdown incident, but she had stayed. She had listened. She had become a friend despite everything. If I do this, my life changes forever, Maya said. I'll never be able to hide again. Were you really hiding, or were you just waiting? The question hit Maya hard. Had she been hiding, or had some part of her always known this moment would come, that she couldn't run forever from what she was and where she came from? 3 days later, Maya sat in Dr. Harrison's office again. I'll talk, she said, but on my terms. I want to control how this information gets out, and I want protection for my family and the people in Hollow. Dr. Harrison smiled. I know someone who can help, a researcher who's been investigating anomalous zones for years. Her name is Dr. Sarah. She's trustworthy and she has resources. Can she keep the government from coming after us? I don't know, but she's the best chance we have. Maya nodded slowly. She was about to cross a line she couldn't uncross. She was about to expose a secret that had been kept for generations. She was about to change everything. But maybe Dr. Harrison and Jessica were right. Maybe silence was worse than truth. Maybe her people deserved the chance to choose their own fate instead of having it forced on them by isolation and fear. Okay, she said, let's do this. Dr. Harrison picked up his phone and made a call. Maya sat and waited, her heart pounding. She thought about her father's last words to her before she left Hollow. You're strong enough to survive anywhere. Don't forget where you came from, but don't let it chain you either. She hadn't forgotten. She never could. But maybe it was time to stop letting it chain her. Maybe it was time to fight for something bigger than her own survival. Maybe it was time to tell her story. Dr. Sarah arrived at university 3 days after Dr. Harrison called her. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and gray streaks in her black hair. She carried a recorder and a thick notebook. She looked at Maya like she was the most important thing in the world. They met in a private office where no one could overhear. Doctor set up her equipment carefully. "Before we start, I want you to know that I believe you," she said. "I've spent 20 years researching places that shouldn't exist. I've documented 14 different sites where reality works differently. But I've never had someone from inside one of these zones willing to talk. This is huge." Maya nodded. Her mouth was dry. "Can we start with your name and where you're from?" Doctor pressed record. "My name is Maya Torres. I'm 18 years old. I was born in Hollow, a town in the Appalachian Mountains that doesn't appear on any official maps." For the next 4 hours, Maya talked. Doctor asked questions and took notes. She asked about specific creatures, about how the town organized itself, about the people who had died and the ones who survived. She asked about everything. Maya described things she had tried to forget. The night watchers who stood guard around the town. The safe zones marked with symbols painted in special mixtures. The breeding programs where the town tried to match people with the best survival traits. The way children were tested at age 5 to see if they had what it took to survive. "What happened to the children who failed the tests?" Doctor asked. Maya's voice got quiet. "They were given to families who lived in the center of town, in the safest areas. They did jobs that kept them protected: cooking, sewing, record keeping. They weren't sent outside the walls." Walls. Not real walls, but boundaries. Lines we didn't cross after dark. Areas where even our strongest fighters wouldn't go. Doctor asked about the shadow stalkers. Maya tried to explain something that didn't make sense even to her. "They're not completely in our dimension," Maya said. "That's the best way I can describe it. You see them but not clearly, like something moving behind thick fog. They make no sound when they move, but you can feel them. A coldness in the air, a pressure on your chest. They hunt in darkness and they're drawn to fear." "How do you fight something like that?" "Light hurts them, fire is better. But the best defense is to not be alone and to not show fear. They can sense it somehow. The more afraid you are, the more aggressive they become." She told Doctor about other things too. The plants that grew near the center of town that glowed at night. The streams where the water ran uphill for no reason. The rocks that felt warm even in winter. The way time sometimes moved differently in certain areas, making you lose hours without realizing it. "It sounds like a nightmare," Doctor said. "It was home," Maya replied. "A terrible, dangerous home, but still home." The interview ended when it got dark outside. Doctor turned off her recorder and looked at Maya with something like awe. "This is the most incredible thing I've ever documented," she said. "With your permission, I want to write a paper about this. I want to present it to my colleagues. This could change everything we know about reality." "I don't want to be famous," Maya said. "I just want people to know the truth." "The truth will make you famous whether you want it or not. Are you ready for that?" Maya wasn't sure, but she nodded anyway. Doctor left that night with hours of recorded testimony. She promised to keep Maya's identity protected until they were ready. But things don't stay secret for long. A graduate student at Doctor's University was going through audio files 2 weeks later. He was supposed to be organizing research data. Instead, he found the recording of Maya's interview. He listened to 10 minutes of it and knew he had found something special. He uploaded a clip to a message board dedicated to unexplained phenomena. Just 30 seconds of Maya describing a shadow stalker attack when she was 14. Her voice calm and detailed, explaining how she had used a torch to drive it away while 3 other children ran. The clip went viral in hours. Conspiracy theory websites picked it up first, then larger platforms. Within 2 days, millions of people had heard Maya's voice describing something impossible. The comments were split. Half the people called it fake. The other half wanted to know more. Someone at recognized Maya's voice. They posted a photo of her from the pepper spray incident. "This is the girl from the audio. She goes to school here." Maya woke up to find her face all over the internet. She was being called girl. People were making theories about her, where she came from, what she was. Some thought she was a government experiment. Others thought she was alien. A few believed her story was real. Dr. Harrison called her to his office. "I'm so sorry," he said. "The leak wasn't supposed to happen. Doctor is devastated, but now we need to control the damage." "How do we do that?" "By telling the full story before someone else does it for you." The university didn't know what to do. A reporter from a major news network was already on campus asking questions. The board of directors had an emergency meeting. Some wanted to distance the school from Maya. Others saw an opportunity for publicity. The dean called Maya in for a meeting. He was an older man with white hair who looked very uncomfortable. "Miss Torres, these allegations you've made are causing quite a stir," he said. "They're not allegations, they're facts. About a secret town where monsters exist. You have to understand how this sounds." "I understand perfectly, but that doesn't make it less true. The university has a reputation to protect. We can't be associated with what some people are calling a hoax or a conspiracy theory." Maya stood up. "Then I'll leave. I don't need to be here." "Wait," the dean held up his hand. "I'm not asking you to leave, but I am asking you to be very careful about what you say publicly. We're getting calls from government agencies, from the media, from people who want to expose you as a fraud. This could become dangerous." "It already is dangerous, and I'm used to dangerous." Jessica was waiting outside the dean's office. She had been Maya's shadow for the past 2 days, helping her avoid reporters and curious students. "What did he say?" Jessica asked. "He's scared. Everyone is scared." "Are you scared?" Maya thought about it. "No, I'm angry. I wanted to do this on my own terms and now it's out of my control, but I'm not scared." That night, 2 men in dark suits knocked on Maya's dorm room door. They said they were from the Department of Homeland Security. They had badges and serious faces. "Miss Torres, we need to ask you some questions about statements you've made regarding a classified location." "Classified? I thought Hollow didn't exist on any official records." "We're not confirming or denying the existence of any such place, but spreading information about classified sites is a federal crime." Maya crossed her arms. "Are you threatening me?" "We're advising you to stop talking about things you may not fully understand, for your own safety and the safety of others." "My parents are still there. Are you threatening them?" The agents looked at each other. One of them spoke quietly. "Your parents signed non-disclosure agreements years ago. They understand the consequences of breaking silence. They signed under threat. They had no choice." "Everyone has choices, Miss Torres. You're making yours right now. Choose wisely." They left without saying anything else. Jessica had been listening from the bathroom. She came out after they were gone. "They can't do that, can they? Just threaten you like that." "They can do whatever they want," Maya said. "That's the point. The government has been hiding Hollow for decades. They don't want anyone to know about it." "What are you going to do?" Maya looked at her phone. It was full of messages, interview requests, death threats, people calling her a liar, people begging her to tell them more. She could delete it all and disappear, move to another state, change her name, go back into hiding. Or she could fight. Dr. Harrison had offered to help her connect with lawyers. Doctor had offered to bring in other scientists who could support her story. Students on campus had started a petition to protect her from being expelled or arrested. And somewhere in Hollow, her parents were probably hearing about all of this. They were probably terrified. Or maybe they were proud. She thought about all the children who would be born in Hollow in the next year, the next 10 years, the next generation. How many would die? How many would never know there was a world beyond the darkness and danger? Maya made her decision. "I'm going to tell everyone everything," she said. "I'm going to stand in front of cameras and reporters and government agents, and I'm going to tell the truth, all of it. They can't threaten me into silence anymore. They might arrest you. Then I'll talk from jail. They might hurt your family. My family has survived things you can't imagine. They're stronger than any government agent." Jessica smiled. "You're crazy, you know that. I grew up in hell, this is nothing." Dr. Harrison arranged a press conference for the following week. It would be held in the university auditorium. Maya would tell her full story. Doctor would present supporting evidence. Other researchers who had studied anomalous zones would speak. It would be public and recorded and impossible to hide. The university tried to cancel it. The government sent more agents to warn them, but students, they filled the auditorium. They stood guard to make sure Maya could speak. They shared information on social media. They made it impossible to stop. The night before the press conference, Maya called her parents. She used a phone that doctor said was secure. She didn't know if that was true, but she tried anyway. Her mother answered after 3 rings. "Maya, we've been so worried." "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm about to make things harder." "We know, we've heard. The whole town has heard. There are government people at the borders now, more than usual." "I can stop. I can go back into hiding." "No," her mother's voice was firm. "You've always been braver than the rest of us. Tell them. Tell them what we've survived. Tell them what they've ignored. Make them see us." "What if it makes things worse for you?" "Things can't get worse. We're already fighting for our lives every day. At least this way, the world will know we exist." Her father got on the phone. "Make us proud, Maya. Show them what Hollow produces. Show them we're not victims, we're survivors." Maya hung up with tears in her eyes. Jessica hugged her and didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. Tomorrow Maya would step into the light. Tomorrow everything would change. She was ready. The auditorium was packed, every seat filled, students standing in the aisles. Cameras from news networks pointed at the stage. Maya stood backstage with Dr. Harrison and Doctor, listening to the crowd noise. "You don't have to do this," Dr. Harrison said one last time. "We can still cancel." "No, we can't." Maya's voice was steady. "This needs to happen." Jessica squeezed her hand. "You've got this." The lights dimmed. Doctor walked out first to introduce everything. She explained her background and research. She showed maps with blank spaces. She presented temperature readings and radiation levels that made no sense. She built the foundation. Then she said the words that changed everything. "Today, I'm introducing you to someone who lived inside one of these impossible places. Someone who survived what shouldn't be survivable. Please welcome Maya Tors." Maya walked onto the stage. The lights were bright and hot. Hundreds of faces stared at her. Cameras recorded every movement. She sat in a chair in the center of the stage, a microphone clipped to her shirt. For a moment she froze. This was more exposure than she had ever imagined, more attention than she wanted. But then she thought about her brother who didn't make it to 9 years old, her sister who died at 15, all the children in Hollow who deserved better. She started talking. "My name is Maya Tors. I'm 18 years old. I was born in a place called Hollow that the government has kept secret for over 100 years. I'm here to tell you about it." For 2 hours Maya spoke. She told them everything, the creatures, the deaths, the way children were trained to fight before they learned to read, the government checkpoints that kept people trapped, the families who had lived there for generations with no choice and no help. She showed scars, long marks down her arms from when she was 12 and something with claws had attacked her, burns on her hands from plants that released acid, a mark on her shoulder where a shadow stalker had touched her and the skin had never properly healed. She demonstrated her abilities. She stood with her back to the audience and identified objects they held up based on sound alone. She moved faster than the cameras could clearly capture. She broke a wooden board with her bare hand without any running start or preparation. "This is what surviving Hollow requires," she said. "You adapt or you die. My body changed because my ancestors' bodies changed. We became something more than normal humans because normal humans couldn't survive there." She answered questions. Reporters asked if she had proof. She told them to check government records from the 1920s when the town was first quarantined. She gave them names of officials who had worked on the project. She provided details that would be impossible to fake. One reporter asked if she was afraid of being arrested for breaking national security laws. "I'm more afraid of staying silent while people die," Maya said. "Arrest me if you want. I've lived through worse than prison." Another asked if she expected people to believe her story. "Some will, some won't, but the truth doesn't change based on belief. Hollow exists whether you accept it or not." By the end, many people in the audience were crying. Others were angry. Some were shouting questions, but everyone was paying attention. The video of Maya's testimony went viral worldwide. Within 12 hours, it had been viewed 50 million times. News programs debated it. Scientists analyzed it. The government released a statement saying Maya was disturbed and her claims were false. But too many people believed her, and too many pieces of evidence started appearing. Former military personnel came forward with stories of guarding something in the Appalachian Mountains. They had signed non-disclosure agreements, but Maya's bravery inspired them to break silence. They described seeing things that shouldn't exist, hearing sounds that didn't make sense, losing soldiers who went into the restricted zone and never came back. Satellite images that had been public for years were suddenly examined more closely. The blank spot on maps that Dr. Harrison had shown was real. People could verify it themselves. Why was there a section of the United States with no roads, no towns, and no information? A senator called for an investigation. She stood on the Senate floor and demanded answers. How long had the government known about Hollow? How many people lived there? What was being done to help them? The government had no choice but to respond. A press conference was held in Washington. Officials admitted that yes, there was a restricted zone in the Appalachians. Yes, there were people living there, but they claimed it was for their own protection. The area contained dangerous environmental hazards. The residents were there voluntarily. They were monitored and supported. Maya watched the press conference from her dorm room and laughed bitterly. "They're lying," she told Jessica. "We weren't there voluntarily. My great-great-grandparents were trapped there when the government created the quarantine. We've been abandoned, not supported." More people from Hollow started reaching out. They found ways to get messages to the outside world. They confirmed Maya's story. They added their own experiences. The wall of silence was breaking. Congress launched a formal investigation. A committee was formed. Maya was called to testify in Washington. She sat in a formal hearing room wearing clothes that Jessica had helped her pick out. Senators asked her questions under oath. She answered every single one truthfully. She didn't exaggerate. She didn't dramatize. She simply told the truth. "How many people have died in Hollow in your lifetime?" a senator asked. "I personally knew 43 people who died, but the population has stayed around 2,000, which means many more died that I didn't know personally, especially children under 5. They usually didn't make it long enough for everyone to know them. And the government knew about this. There are checkpoints at every possible exit. Guards patrol the borders. They knew. They've always known." The hearing lasted 3 days. By the end, several senators were calling for immediate action. They wanted the zone opened. They wanted medical teams sent in. They wanted people evacuated if they wanted to leave. The military opposed it. Scientists warned that whatever made Hollow dangerous might spread if the quarantine was lifted. Intelligence agencies claimed it was a matter of national security. Maya again. The people of Hollow aren't the threat, she said firmly. We're victims of circumstances we didn't create. We've survived against impossible odds. We deserve the right to choose our own futures. If some want to leave, let them leave. If some want to stay, respect that choice. But stop pretending we don't exist. Public opinion was on Maya's side. Protests happened in major cities demanding action. Social media campaigns spread her story. Children wrote letters to their representatives asking them to help the kids in Hollow. 6 months after Maya's first testimony, the government made a decision. Hollow would be officially acknowledged. A team would enter to provide medical care and resources. Anyone who wanted to leave would be helped to relocate. Those who wanted to stay would receive support and protection. The quarantine would remain but would be reframed as a protective boundary rather than a prison. Maya was there when the first official team entered Hollow. She had been asked to come as a guide and translator. She stood at the edge of the town she had fled from, looking at the place that had shaped her. Her parents ran to meet her. Her mother grabbed her and held on tight. Her father had tears in his eyes. They had survived 6 more months and now they were seeing their daughter again. "You did it," her mother whispered. "You made them see us." The medical team was shocked by what they found. People with scars and injuries that had healed wrong. Children with old wounds. Adults who were malnourished and exhausted, but also people who were strong and proud and unbroken. Some families chose to leave immediately. The government set up relocation programs. They were given housing, medical care, education, and job training. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. Other families chose to stay. They knew Hollow. They had learned to survive there. They didn't trust the outside world. Maya's parents were among those who stayed. "This is our home," her father said. "We know it's dangerous, but it's ours. We'll accept help, but we're not leaving." Maya understood. She didn't try to convince them otherwise. Back at Maya's life had transformed completely. She was no longer just a student. She was a spokesperson, an advocate, a symbol of survival. Dr. Harrison established a new research program studying what he called adaptation under extreme conditions. Maya was the first case study. Other survivors from Hollow who left became part of the program too. They were treated with respect and dignity, not like lab experiments. Jessica remained Maya's closest friend. She had stood by her through everything. The threats, the publicity, the chaos, she never wavered. "Why?" Maya asked her one night. "Why did you stay when you could have requested a different roommate?" "Because you're the strongest person I've ever met," Jessica said simply. "And because everyone deserves a friend who sees them for who they really are." Maya started giving talks at universities. She spoke about resilience, about survival, about finding strength in impossible circumstances. Students who had faced their own traumas connected with her story. She received letters from people all over the world telling her she inspired them. But she never forgot where she came from. 1 year after her first testimony, Maya returned to Hollow for a special occasion. 3 families were leaving together. Among them were 3 teenagers who wanted to attend college. They had heard about Maya's success and wanted the same opportunity. Maya met them at the border. They looked terrified and excited. They carried small bags with everything they owned. They looked at the outside world with wide eyes. "Is it really safe out there?" one girl asked. Her name was Sarah and she was 17. "Safer than here," Maya said. "But that doesn't mean it's easy. People will judge you. They'll be scared of you. They won't understand what you've survived, but you're strong enough to handle it." "How do you know?" "Because you survived Hollow. You can survive anything." She helped them apply too. All 3 were accepted with full scholarships. They moved into the dorms in September. Maya checked on them every day. She helped them adjust. She taught them things about the normal world that seemed obvious to others but were foreign to them. They struggled. The noise of campus bothered them. The crowds made them nervous. They jumped at sudden sounds. They had nightmares, but they also laughed. They made friends. They learned. They survived. On the first anniversary of Maya's testimony, the university held a memorial. They dedicated a garden to everyone who had died in Hollow. Maya spoke at the ceremony. "A year ago, I was terrified to tell my story," she said. "I thought it would destroy my life. Instead, it gave me purpose. The people of Hollow are no longer forgotten. The children who died there are remembered, and the survivors have hope for the first time in generations." She looked out at the crowd. Jessica was there, Dr. Harrison, the three new students from Hollow, dozens of supporters who had helped along the way. "I learned something this year," Maya continued. "Everyone is surviving their own version of it might not be literal. It might be poverty or abuse or illness or discrimination. But we all face battles that others don't see. We all carry scars. What matters is that we don't face them alone." The applause was long and loud. People stood and cheered. Maya felt something she had never expected to feel, not just pride, not just relief, but belonging. She had spent her whole childhood feeling like an outsider in her own town, too aware of the dangers, too different from the others who accepted their fate. Then she came to and felt like an outsider again, too damaged, too strange, too marked by her past. But standing on that stage, looking at people who saw her and accepted her and celebrated her, she finally felt like she belonged somewhere. That night Maya called her parents. They talked for hours. They told her about changes in Hollow, the medical supplies that had saved lives, the better food that made people healthier, the new training programs that taught safety without trauma. It wasn't perfect. People still died. The dangers were still real, but it was better. "We're proud of you," her father said. "You took the pain of our past and turned it into hope for our future." After she hung up, Maya sat on her floor mattress and looked around her dorm room. She had moved the bed back to its proper place months ago. She slept on it now, though some nights she still preferred the floor. She no longer kept a knife under her pillow. She no longer checked the exits compulsively. She was learning to feel safe. But she never forgot. She would never forget. The scars on her arms reminded her. The nightmares that occasionally came reminded her. The way she could hear things others couldn't reminded her. She was Maya Torres from Hollow. She was a survivor. She was a fighter. She was a bridge between two worlds.